Go ahead and get started, okay? My name is Jean Seelan, and I'm a retired teacher, and I'm a member of League of Women Voters, and I am the moderator for tonight. Before we begin, I want to just let you all know who's doing what tonight. Jerry Hagman is our timekeeper. Augusta Sires is our question screener, and Mike Dargan is, of course, our technical guru and makes this all possible. The agenda for tonight is, with our first go around with the legislators, we're going to just ask them to discuss their committee assignments and maybe a little bit about their district and what else they want to say about committees. And then in our second go around, we will talk about their hopes and priorities and dreams and concerns about this session. But in the first go around, you will each have 4 minutes and discuss your committee assignments, if you would, please. And why don't we start with Representative Kressig?
Okay, so you want me to start now then? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, would you please, Bob?
Okay, I am Bob Kressig. I represent House District 59, which is Cedar Falls. And this is my 9th term serving in the legislature. I currently serve on the Transportation Committee. I'm also ranking member of that committee. I serve on Commerce, Public Safety, and then I'm also on the Transportation Budget and Infrastructure Committee. So I guess is that kind of what you wanted us for our?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Representative Williams?
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was a little late getting here, and thank you for going to this effort to establish this forum. It's really a good way for us to be able to communicate with constituents. This is going to be it is my 2nd term, or beginning my 3rd year serving in the legislature. And this year, I'm serving on the new Information Technology Committee. I'm ranking member, and by the way, each one of the representatives is a ranking member this year. So I thought that was kind of interesting when we were talking about that the other day. I also serve on the Ag Committee and Appropriations Committees. And then the subcommittee I serve on is the Education Budget, which oversees the expenditures for post-secondary expenditures, the region schools and the special schools, and then numerous special projects, if you will, involving education. So thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate this.
Thank you. Representative Timmy Brown Powers?
If I could just interrupt for a second. Yeah. Bill Dotzer is saying that he needs to be let into the meeting.
Thank you. Mike, will you take care of that? While that is happening, why don't we go to Representative Timmy Brown Powers?
Okay. Hi, everybody, and thanks for being with us tonight. So this is my 4th term, and this year my committees, I'm ranking member of Natural Resources, which is new for me this year. That committee as a whole is new to me this year, so kind of excited about that. Veterans Administration, which I have served on the last 2 terms, HHS Budget, and Human Resources, which both have been ever since I've been elected, and then Ways and Means is my 5th one. So staying busy, and at some point, Jean, I do have an update on the vaccinations, so I'll give that whenever you cue me to, but I did talk to the director today, so that has been a hot question, and so at some point tonight, I'll answer those questions as well.
Timmy, do you want to go ahead and do that right now?
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
So I just talked to the Blackhawk County Director, and we talked to the Director Garcia as well. And so I just wanted to give everybody kind of the lowdown, because I know we've all been asked, because we're moving into 1B in February. So next week, locally, we are going to be continuing. The director just spoke with, I just spoke to her right before we got on the call. She is still working on finishing everybody in 1A next week. And so that is priority. Starting February 1st, we're going to be moving into 1B, and we put that out, but that is 65 and older, persons with disabilities, folks that have care coming into their home. So that's out there, and I will put that out there, that whole breakdown again. But the most important thing that people need to know is that Nafisa will be doing a press conference Thursday, because what we really need folks to do is just kind of hold on for a minute and wait for the local direction. So that press conference will be Thursday. And what is really how people will be signing up is the providers. So all of the providers, Unity Point, People's Clinic, and Mercy One have really worked there. They have a team here in Blackhawk County, and they have asked that they reach out to their patients themselves and get them signed up. So I can tell you at Mercy One and Unity Point, they're setting up call centers, they're setting up clinics, and so they will be reaching out to folks and getting their patients signed up for the vaccination. The biggest thing that we really wanted to stress is that there's nothing broken in the system. Everything is set to go off on February 1st. All providers and the director have worked hard and they're ready to go. The delay will be that getting people scheduled and getting the vaccines. The number of vaccines coming into Iowa is low. So it's not because the system is broken or someone didn't do what they needed to do. It is just the number of vaccines coming in Iowa. So as those vaccines increase, then the process will pick up. But people are excited, which I'm excited that they are excited to get their vaccine. But we're going to have to be patient and let that process happen. Right now, the number of vaccines that we get has nothing to do with the director, our local director, or the state director, or the governor. It is a federal process, and we are allocated so many vaccines per week. And so we will deal with those vaccines as we get them. Nafisa said, just give her the vaccines and she'll get them in the arms, but the slowdown is the number of vaccines. Several pharmacies are also getting ready to set up websites so that patients can get on and sign up through them as well. But I think the key thing is the providers really want to reach out and get their patients signed up and do a personal call. So that's kind of the lowdown on the vaccines. So we're finishing 1A next week. We still have not got through all of those folks. And then February 1st, we'll start into 1B, but everybody will not get their vaccination that first week. It's going to be a process as we get through. Now, the other question that is hot on my webpage is, it is 65 and up. So it was initially from going to be 75, but it was felt that, and our Blackhawk County director agreed that it really needed to be 65 and up. So Iowa is going to conform to the CDC recommendation, and they are eligible throughout the entire time of 1B. So there are others, our meatpacking plants and our teachers and our folks with disabilities and their caregivers. Those are at different levels throughout, but those folks that are 65 and over, you're eligible that entire time. So you don't necessarily have to wait. But the key here again is Nafisa will be doing a press conference on Thursday. So stay tuned for local guidance and stay tuned for your providers to get a hold of you. If you have any other questions, you can private message me, but that's kind of the lowdown as of today.
Thank you, Timmy. That's good information to have. Why don't we go to Representative Roz Smith?
Good afternoon. I'm happy to see you all Here, I serve as the ranking member for the House Education Committee. I also serve on the Agriculture Committee, Natural Resources, and our newly formed Information Technology, in which Representative Williams is the ranking member of that. I'm also the chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus, and soon to be named the co-chair of the Iowa Congressional Future Caucus. So lots of stuff moving. I'm entering my third term, or my fifth year in the Iowa Legislature, representing House District 62.
Thank you. Let's go to Senator Eric Giddens, please.
Thank you, Jean. Thank everybody who's attending tonight. It's good to be with you all. So I am starting, I guess, what you'd call my first full term, because I came in a special election in 2019, 2/3 of the way through that legislative session. And then I had the 2020 session that was very interrupted, as we all know, and then was just reelected last year in November. So this is the start of my first full term. And it's an honor to be back. So my committee assignments now are, I am ranking member of 2 committees, actually, Transportation and Veterans Affairs. Then I also serve on Senate Education Committee, the State Government Committee, and I'm on the Administration and Regulation Budget Subcommittee. That one is a new experience for me. Before the election, in my previous term, I was on Ways and Means, so I rolled off of that, and I've picked up this Admin and Reg Budget Committee, which I'm excited about having a role, you know, in the state budgeting process. So look forward to the discussion tonight about education, because there's a lot going on with education right now in the Iowa Senate.
Thank you. Senator Annette Sweeney.
Hello, everybody. Here we go. I've got at least the sound going.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, and thanks everybody for joining. I'm Senator Annette Sweeney. I live in north central Iowa. So I live about an hour from Waterloo. The counties that I cover is Hardin, Grundy, a slice of Butler, and Story counties. So I'm just barely over there. And the committees I serve on, I have to look at my list. I am on the education approach. So one of the previous persons said that they're on the education budget. So we'll be talking this year. And then I also am on Ways and Means. I'm chair of Natural Resources. I'm vice chair of Agriculture. I am on the Human Resources, Education, and let's see here, there's one more, International Relations. But this year with no travel, I'm kind of bummed. I don't think I'll be able to do anything on that. So thank you all very much for being on tonight, and thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. And last but not least, Senator Bill Dotzler. Are you with us?
Bill hasn't tried to connect yet. I wonder if I've sent an email to him giving him I wonder if he's got the wrong session address. But anyway, I'm trying to correspond with him. If somebody has his phone number, if they could ask him to check his email, that might help.
Okay. Okay.
Excuse me.
We'll listen to Bill when we connect with him. But why don't we proceed to the next phase of our agenda tonight? We're going to give you 8 minutes to talk about your hopes and your needs, priorities for this session. What do you want to happen? And maybe a little bit about what is already happening, okay? And for that, why don't we start with Representative Dave Williams.
I need to pass. I'm having trouble getting connected myself properly. So could you go to somebody else while I figure this out? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Representative Brown Powers.
Hi again, everybody. So my hopes and dreams, huh? Well, I think, you know, one of the things that we're really working on right now is the COVID recovery. That's, I think, in everybody's forefront of their mind. How are we going to, get all of our folks vaccinated? And then how are we going to get back to our new normal, which I think will be new. And then, our small businesses and our schools and, and what's that process look like? And so, we have put out some legislation to try to move in that direction. I think that's something that has to be a topic in almost everything that we discuss. The other thing for me, and COVID goes along with it, is mental health. We had budget on mental health on the HHS budget, where the governor has recommended $15 million in 2 consecutive years to go towards mental health. My big question is how much of that is going to go to child mental health. If you recall, a couple of years ago, I was on the committee that we passed some child mental health structure, but within that, there was no funding. And so it is my hope that we are passing some funding to go that direction to the regions, so the regions can actually implement some of the child mental health things that we are requesting of them. So they are supposed to get back to me. That there was no really allocation where that was going to go. And so I'm hoping to work that we really improve the child mental health, because to be quite frank, we really haven't done anything since we passed that initial legislation. And with COVID and families being at home and kids not being in the school, we are seeing an increase at all ages. And so that's, just a really big concern that I have. I am working hard too, again, still with our MCO program, making sure that our providers are getting their reimbursement, but more importantly, that our patients are getting taken care of and getting the services and equipment that they need. And we have, though I have been talking about this since this was implemented, and some things are better, some things have not gotten better at all. And so it is my hope that we can make some of those improvements for our folks in our communities. Our rural area, I am having a real hardship with our folks in rural area with no home health care providers at all, with cuts within the local hospitals. And so we really got to look at what we're doing in rural Iowas and getting programming there. I've got a couple bills I'm working on to get more nursing staff, nurse practitioners, and physicians to stay in Iowa. We desperately need them. We also are looking at care providers, personal care providers, in-home providers, and really looking at that essential job. It is an essential job, and really improving the pay that those folks make, and then improving the locations of where they're at. We need them not just in the urban areas, but we need them in the rural areas. So that is something else that I'm working on. And then this year, again, we are working on the food bank tax exempt bill. I suspect that I will have 100% of House support again as a bipartisan bill. It passed the House last year. It was killed in the Senate in the late evening. It was struck from their bill. And so, this is a $250,000 price tag, which is nothing in this particular budget. It will feed over 1 million Iowans across Iowa. So to me, it's a no-brainer. So I am hoping that we can get that moving this year and then keep it alive. And Veterans Affairs and Natural Resources. Veterans Affairs is usually a productive committee. And so I'm looking forward to just doing more for veterans, and we've had some good bills thus far. But Natural Resources is my new one. And so I am working with some local folks. I got some messages today, but really Roz is on that committee with me. So really wanting folks to reach out to us so we can look at some productive legislation about soil and water and climate change. We've got some hunting issues, and we've got some conservation issues, some trespassing issues, but I'd also like us from the BlackHawk County area to introduce some legislation that might improve our overall quality in the state of Iowa for all Iowans when it comes to our water and our soil. So I think that's my plate right now, and but always open to listening to what everybody else has to say and their needs that they have in the community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Dotzler has joined us. We're so glad that we can hear from him now. And Bill, why don't you go ahead and discuss your committee assignments and then also just go into talking about your hopes and needs and priorities for the coming year, if you would, please.
Okay, thanks. I don't know what I missed, but that was a little frustrating. I guess I had an old number to get in on. So, but anyway, just a couple things. I basically got the same committees. I serve on the full appropriations for the Senate, the Ways and Means Committee, the Business and Labor Committee, and also Veterans Affairs. And I'm the ranking member of the Economic Development Appropriation Budget Sub, which oversees the budgets for the Economic Development Authority, Iowa Workforce Development, the Department of Cultural Affairs. We have a little bit of IFA and the PER Board. So we go through with the Public Sector Bargaining Board through the Budget Committee and fund that. So far, you know, as a minority person, you really don't have much in the way of priorities. You try to work on some stuff. I did work a little bit on, I caught the back end of Timmy talking about food bank stuff, and I think we might have a good shot of getting that through the Senate this year. I talked to Senator Carlin, who's in charge of that bill, and he seemed like he was going to try moving it forward. On the business and labor side of stuff, I do know that and they are talking about trying to do something with employee drug testing again. And if somebody who is charged with drugs testing positive, and it finds out that that was a mistake and it cost them their job, or they had some loss or financial loss, this bill would forgive the company from putting it through that, and says that any settlement it's up to be proven by the person who was affected that they had these losses, and the losses had to be reasonable. So here we go again. And there was one bill that they're working on, and that's trying to bring people back into Iowa and give credit for moving. Maybe if you can work now on the internet, and your company allows you to work from home, and it doesn't make any difference where your location is, we're going to try to bring people back to Iowa and help with their expenses. So those are a couple bills. Also, the Veterans Affairs Committee, they're trying to do stuff with housing tax credits and a couple other minor things that really don't amount to much. But I guess if you look at my agenda, it would be to try to stop what the governor's trying to do to kick the triggers in on our that income tax cut, because if that does happen, it's going to be devastating to our general fund. They do hold off on doing it, so it isn't immediate. But when you start looking at the long range effects, you know, even in 2024, we're going to see reductions in our budget, and then it's going to go up fast. 2025, 300 and about 50 million. And then each year after that, in the last projection, we would lose in 2027. So 6 years from now, almost $800 million in revenue. And then also we have a lot of education people, but this thing about mandatory classroom and allowing people to move and take vouchers is another serious one. And then lastly, the most important thing I think we can work on is trying to do something about the COVID and the unsafe working conditions, and trying to get legislators to wear masks, because we're starting to find out new data every day about the variants. And there's one variant that they've discovered, and I think it's coming out of Africa, that it might not respond to our shots. So I just read about that today, and that's that could be very dangerous. And the thing about wearing masks is that people that don't get sick don't think that that makes much difference. But those variants that are created through mutations, because COVID's a single strand RNA and it can't repair itself, it can evolve into other things. In fact, COVID-19 really came from a SARS COVID. So it's pretty dangerous. We got to be wearing masks. And I don't know what we can do to deal with the majority. They're pretty full of themselves. And I don't know if Senator Giddens talked about it, but they just think that they got a mandate to do anything they want. And it's very disheartening. And I'm going to try to talk to them on the floor next week in the line of what our new President Biden talked about trying to work together and trying to do what's best for our state. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Bill. Why don't we stay in the Senate and go to Senator Giddens, please?
Okay, thank you all again. I realized that I didn't say exactly where my Senate district is when I introduced myself earlier. It's Senate District 30, which is the more or less the west half of the Cedar Falls, Waterloo metro area. So city of Cedar Falls, city of Hudson, and the southwest part of Waterloo. So you know, a lot of the things that we will be dealing with and working on have already been said here tonight. I really appreciate Senator Brown Power, or Representative Brown Power's leadership with, you know, human resources and healthcare issues always. And I know throughout this COVID pandemic, she's just, she's worked herself to the bone, you know, herself personally in the COVID clinic. And now, you know, with dealing with the Iowa Department of Public Health and Department of Human Resources, getting information out to us, I'm so grateful for her work. So, you know, that is the thing that we need to be dealing with first and foremost is this COVID pandemic, and what we're going to do to get through it as quickly as we can and support people in our communities, folks that are hurting, that are hungry, you know, small businesses that have struggled, and many of them may not be able to survive this thing. We need to help them get through. We need to help our school districts do all we can to support school districts, and the list goes on, and get through the thing as best we can, and then help folks rebuild, you know, after the fact, and come back hopefully in a stronger position, utilizing some of the lessons that we've learned along the way. So moving over to, you know, bills and issues that we're dealing with in committees, I mentioned that I'm ranking member of Transportation in the Senate. It's a nice bipartisan committee. We deal with a lot of different things. One of the priorities that we've had for a while now, including last session, but it got kind of pushed to the back burner and didn't wind up happening because of the interrupted session, is a hands-free bill. So banning the use of any handheld devices in vehicles while you're driving. I feel really confident that we'll get that across the finish line this year. In fact, there's a few different versions of it, so our work will be figuring out which one to move forward. There, I see Roger on the line here. That reminds me of some bicycle safety issues that we're dealing with as well. So happy to have those bills, and I've heard a lot of folks that are interested in seeing those things happen. And so I think we'll have a good shot of moving those things forward, making it more safe to ride bikes in the state of Iowa. Mentioning earlier the thing about learning lessons from COVID, we've all had to adapt in terms of how we work during this pandemic, and the Department of Transportation moved some of its license issuing online, and they've learned how to do some things more efficiently now, I think. And so we've got a couple of bills that seek to make permanent some of the changes that the Department of Transportation made, during the COVID pandemic. So we'll be working on all of those things in transportation. Veterans Affairs, another bipartisan committee, enjoy that work. There are a few different bills that we've got already scheduled for subcommittees right now, just generally to support our veterans community, and it's nice to have a nice bipartisan committee that really is aimed at doing what's best to support our veterans. Education, I think that's supposed to be the main topic for the evening tonight, right? So am I correct about that? I think that's where we're headed. So maybe I'll reserve some of the comments, but Senator Dotzler mentioned a couple of things. We have two big bills that are moving really rapidly through the Senate right now. In fact, they're kind of taking all of the oxygen out of the room, is the way I'd say it at the moment, and probably will be through the coming week. We have subcommittees set up for both of these bills on Monday, one of them Monday morning at 10:30, the next one at 2 p.m., and then an full education committee meeting at 3 p.m. on Monday to deal with those two bills. One of them is about mandating 100% in-person instruction for the remainder of this school year, through this school year. And the other one it's a big bill that has a whole bunch of provisions in it. They were priorities of the governor's. They're not in exactly the same form as the governor proposed them. Some of the language has been changed from her proposal, but they have the same kind of key components. We're very concerned about that bill. Private school vouchers are one of the provisions in there. We've got expansion of charter schools and eliminating a lot of the regulations and essentially making charter schools an option that won't be accountable to local school boards. And then one of the provisions that will impact the Waterloo School District significantly is elimination of voluntary diversity plans. Diversity is our strength. We celebrate diversity. We feel like we need that provision there. And I think it's going to be interesting in the coming days to see what groups come out opposed to this bill for that purpose, that one piece of it. So I'll leave the education stuff there for now. I'll just touch on right now before I stop commenting in this segment that I believe most folks know I work at UNI at the Center for Energy and Environmental Education. So energy and environmental issues are very important to me. And I've got one project, I guess we'll call it, that I'm working on sort of in the background, doing some organizing, talking to key senators about that has to do with setting up a program to do energy efficiency financing. So a property owner that owns a commercial building and that's an energy hog could use some funds to upgrade their HVAC equipment or add insulation or things like that. Could use this program if we were able to set it up. And I won't go into the weeds about it, but it could really do a lot to save energy in the state of Iowa and benefit property owners. And it would be done with private dollars is the kind of attractive thing about it that I think will probably have some bipartisan appeal. So working on that on the energy and climate and environment front. And that may be enough for me to talk about right now, and I look forward to the next segment here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator Sweeney.
Yes, he is.
Okay, I'm unmuted and let me get my video. Okay, perfect. All right. That with me being on the natural resources, and I'm just really excited about that. One thing positive, I think this is the only positive thing that we've got out of COVID is people got to go to the outdoors. And granted, you know, the state parks were closed down for a while, but they reopened so families could be together. They could get out in our state parks. We had record numbers to visit. And so I just really wanted to make sure that our state parks are taking care of what they already have and any improvements. I know that they have been doing a lot of improvements for, you know, we've got bigger campers now than we did even 10 years ago. And they've made a lot of improvements so families can enjoy being in the state parks and the different kind of campers that they have and being able to use those. I'm also working on some hunting bills and then also drainage bills, which up in the Waterloo area really don't have any much concern about drainage, but so I'm working on that. And then also water quality. My husband and I have been on the South Fork Watershed Alliance for almost 20 years now, and my husband has held offices in that. And with that South Fork Watershed Alliance, we have the most data of any watershed within the state of Iowa. And with that data that we've also worked on the nutrient reduction strategy, and we are making great strides with that. So I'd like to see for us to be able to make more strides and get more farmers, and we have absentee landowners, and to get people more involved with that. At Ways and Means, I am very excited about the bipartisan bill to rid Iowa of the death tax. We passed it this last week out of subcommittee, and it was everybody in subcommittee, we all voted for that. So I'm really, really excited about that. I just put in a bill in education for operational sharing for IT. And especially in our rural areas, we really need to be able to do that. Humans and human resources, I filed a bill on insurance coverage for metastatic breast cancer and for treatment and also for screening for metastatic breast cancer. Then also I'd like to read some things that I've put together for the COVID, and Timmy did a great job in outlining what we see coming down the road with the vaccinations. I've been visiting with a number of my local hospitals, and so with that, they're telling me, and you know, the pharmacies can also give the shots, or the vaccinations, I should say. There's a problem that people will sign up on 2 or 3 different pharmacies to get the shot, and then they don't call the pharmacy to tell them to get off the list and, you know, move other people up. So our people that are listening on Facebook, could you please make sure that your loved ones or you that are signed up for the vaccinations don't sign up at 5 different pharmacies. Try to stay at one so they can be able to tell, you know, where you're at, because sometimes they order that vaccination for those people, then they don't show up for the vaccination because they have not called and said, I've already received it. That's going to be a big problem. And when people are doing that, there are somebody that are really going to need that vaccination, and they're not going to be able to get it because somebody at another pharmacy didn't show up and they wasted one. So that really concerns me. So we need to make sure that people are properly getting in line to get the vaccination. And the immunization funding objectives that we have had, we've got a grant award and received 5 days ago and awarded 45 days to the completion of the work plan. We're going to increase COVID-19 vaccination capacity across the state, including among high risk and underserved populations, which that'll help out in our rural areas. Ensure high quality and safe administration, ensure equitable distribution and administration, increase the vaccine confidence through education, outreach, partnerships. And again, if you're going to register for a COVID vaccine, make sure you just do it at one pharmacy instead of all 5 of them in your county. Develop and implement community engagement strategies to promote use immunization information systems to support the correct vaccination reporting, contract information, and also now the funding that we've got $28 million total funding, and the funding eligible for the expenditures through 2024. And the Iowa Department of Public Health, considering various options, we're thinking about a strike team, data visualization, staff augmentation and support, and local contacts, which I think in my rural area, our pharmacies are going to be key. And then also our public health person in our counties is also going to be instrumental. And then immediately contracting 10 million through the response contracts, and expect contract information, and also the week of January 25th, formula application consistent with preparedness funds, and you support local vaccination efforts. So I'm just really excited that that we're really going forward with the all this implementation for the COVID. And and as for, I think that's about all I have for my committees. And then also we in the Senate, we do take the COVID seriously. We do not have our clerks on the floor. They are all in their they're all within downstairs, and they're all within their cubicles, and clerks aren't allowed on the floor unless they are clerking for a particular committee. And I've been wearing my mask, and so we do take COVID seriously. That's about all I got. I saw there was a couple, were those questions for me or for Timmy that popped up?
Those were questions for later on, okay? When we get to the question part of it.
Bill Dotzler here. I just want to make a comment about Senator Sweeney. She does wear her mask. And there are a couple others that I've noticed that wear their masks in the Iowa Senate, and it's greatly appreciated for those of us, and I'm not the only one that has an advanced problem that could cause real, they're very vulnerable to catching COVID. And there are people that take it serious, and then there are those that aren't. But Senator Sweeney, I want to personally thank you, and I was going to, but I didn't get an opportunity to talk to you yet about it. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Why don't we go over to the House of Representatives now, and we'll go to Representative Cressing, please.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, because I don't know how many questions we are, I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible. So in the legislature, some of the things that we just saw recently, there's a constitutional amendment dealing with guns that would basically create strict scrutiny, and it would create some really big challenges currently. So that's another one. And then there's an anti-abortion constitutional amendment that has been moved forward in the House. One of the areas that I think that the House is really failing at is regarding the safety in the building for the House. No mask mandates in there. And we had quite a lengthy debate on yesterday about what they're doing. Well, one area that is, I think, problematic is public comment for individuals in the House is going to be pretty challenging, because you can get online and attend a meeting virtually, but you can't comment. And I can't either. If I attend a meeting virtually, I cannot make any comments, nor can I vote. And we had a meeting with the DOT the other day, and they shared that the DOT is allowing the members of the board for the DOT the ability to vote. They can do all of their meetings virtually. So it seems like it's kind of a mistake there. I would say that somebody needs to mute their device if they can, if they're not talking. Couple of areas that I think are moving pretty well is childcare. Sounds like that's making traction. It does sound like Timmy, brought up the mental health issue. That's something that I've worked on for a while and would love to see some funding for mental health related issues. It's not good. So, and broadband. So sounds like that's getting some traction. And I had a meeting today with CFU and we talked a little bit about, and in reality, if communities would use CFU as their model for how to move forward with telecommunications and other services, things would be pretty good in the state. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully we give people a chance to ask questions tonight. So that's the key. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Williams.
Thank you. Okay, so I have two high-level priorities. That one is working for our constituents. And the reason I say our is that, of course, I want to represent District 60, which is South Waterloo, South Cedar Falls, or Southwest Waterloo, South Cedar Falls, then south, including the city of Hudson and some rural area. Want to represent those folks, but also all of the Cedar Valley and the citizens of Iowa. That's one priority is getting input from folks and then going to bat for them. For example, there's this rule from the Department of Ag that pertains to how to kennel animals, specifically dogs, I think it is. Well, we're one of, 5 states that don't allow this certain method of kenneling. So I like to work on things like that and try to help out, because if that helps out a couple of our constituents here in the Cedar Valley, it's probably going to help across the state too. So that's one. Another one is apparently the food delivery services, for example, have been taking advantage, maybe even gouging our small businesses, our restaurants that have been depending on carry out. So I enjoy working on things like that. Food banks, another example that Rep. Brown Powers mentioned. Of course, that's statewide, but whatever we can do to help those kinds of causes that really are good investments that return an investment to us, I think are things I like to spend time on. And then the second thing is the policy bills and budget that I'm assigned to at the state level. So things that I'm not assigned to that I would like to see, hopes and dreams. I come from a business background where, even though John Deere, I wouldn't really classify it as an extremely fast-moving company, but things moved along quite a bit quicker than they do in Des Moines. And I'm really tired of kicking the can down the road on this bottle bill. It's just really frustrating. And I'm not on a committee that's going to do that work on that. And of course, we're all experts on the bottle bill, right? I just wish we would do something. I did hear majority party leadership. It's going to be on what's the public television show? Not Meet the Press. David Yepsen. The Republican leadership is saying that we would like to keep the bottle bill and improve it. So that would be one of my dreams, is to see that happen. And I would think we need to make some more big steps on racial and social justice. it was, the most significant thing I have seen in my short tenure in the legislature when Representative Smith led us on the House side anyway to the bill that made some big improvements, but there is so much more to do. And I hope that we can get back to that and have something come up. Again, that's not a committee that I serve on, but that's one of my dreams. And then areas that I am working on, well, a couple more things that I'm not working on. I got moved off of Commerce, which includes utilities, but I've been working on some ideas that I'm going to pass along back to the Commerce Committee because of my past experience in utility work. Some things that would help us streamline utilities management process. So working on things like that. And then in the area of my committees on information technology, we did take quite a few bills that were in Commerce last year and brought those over to, if I can call it IT. So we've got, I think, 5 bills started now. And as you know, the governor proposed $150 million a year for the next 3 years to spend on building out broadband. I should say high-speed internet because broadband is not the only solution. So high-speed internet. And I got that bill yesterday afternoon and brought it home last night. And I'm glad to see that we're building on the approach that was developed in the last year or so. And we're using the organization called the Office of Chief Information Officer, OCIO, that is going to be allowed to set some rules. And last year had a pretty good process for deciding how grants were to be given. And these grants then encourage public-private partnerships. So I'm glad to see that. I have a couple concerns. One is I would like to see our policy be as future-proof as possible. For example, one of my concerns is we will be granting money to companies that provide internet service that is by the federal definition is by definition high speed, but it's not. And I won't go into the detail of that. So that concerns me quite a bit. And also then another concern I have is, there are a lot of private companies that could have been building out both in the rural areas and here in the cities and didn't. And of course, the reason they didn't is because they don't get an adequate return on investment. So guess what? Now that there's a government grant available, now they're really interested in, by the way, they're the ones that want to offer the minimal service. So I have some concerns about that, and we'll be asking some questions as we move ahead. Also in the telecommunications area, one nice bill that's coming along is to allow some financing options that will help, I think, with telecommunications. And the other one escapes me right at the moment. So I'm really pleased to be working on the IT committee. It has given me the opportunity to pay forward my experience here in the Cedar Valley. And I will also continue not only the rural situation, but these same private companies that are now suddenly at the trough don't provide great service in town either. So we're looking at some legislation. I haven't seen the bill yet. It's not the one I can't recall, that will allow some collaboration so we can hopefully make some progress in areas. I know we have areas like that in Waterloo and Hudson, for example. So that'll be a major part of my emphasis. I worked with the chair of the committee, Representative Losi, last year on commerce, and he's really good to work with, and I look forward to continuing that. I don't expect much to happen in ag this year. Last year we had the sales tax idea come up, which was really more of a tax bill than a conservation bill. But that was not in the governor's condition of the state address. So maybe I think Rep. Powers is on ways, and maybe the senators have some more background on that. But I don't expect ag to get much work to do this year unless that comes up, and then we will be discussing the I will part of it, the conservation part, the 3/8 of a penny. But so I don't expect much from ag. And then when it comes to education budget, maybe I'm a little too quick to look at things through an economic lens. But for me, education is not only a way to offer somebody help to improve themselves. That's how education worked for me personally. But it's also a huge key to our economic development. We are the slowest growing state in the Midwest, except for Illinois. And if you look at our population growth, we are also lagging behind. And smart investment in education, I think, is one of our keys out of that. Now, before the pandemic hit, I think it was President Nook from UNI was talking about how many higher skilled jobs were going to go vacant because of lack of qualified, educated people. So we need to take a longer term look at how we invest in education, because I think that's one of our keys to economic growth, rather than cutting our nose off of our proverbial face for short-term benefit. It's just not very far thinking. So that'll be something that I'll be looking for in the education budget subcommittee. And then when we get to approps, that's always exciting, because you have this spreadsheet with an $8 billion budget on it. And we don't often get to see it until it's very late, but it's always an exciting time when then you see the $150,000 disappearing from the food bank allocation, and some other multi-million-dollar number already. It just shows up out of nowhere. So approps is always interesting at the end of the session. So I don't know if that covers much in the way of hopes and dreams, but those are the things I think I'm going to be working on this session. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Smith, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to keep it brief. I know I don't want to touch on some topics that we've already spoke about a bit, so I'll just highlight a few things. But overarchingly for me, it's really about the role of government has evolved, it's changed, and I think we have to address to that. I think in this time we've seen the gaps that exist in our community and our societies, and I think it's time for government to honor its social contract with the people. And so for me, I know Senator Giddens talked a little about education, so I won't hit on that too much, but just want to highlight that I think stopping vouchers is one of the things that I'm going to make a concerted effort to do for a lot of reasons. But there are only 5 districts in our state right now with 4 or more private options. So a majority of our state, right, over 90% of our state won't benefit. But if vouchers do pass, it will set us on maybe a 10-year path to rural school closures and basically making a rural school district almost non-existent. So that's something we have to be really, really mindful of. I do believe that we have to have long-term vision on COVID small business relief. I don't think that we can just address the immediate needs. I think that will set us up for failure in the future. So when I hear Representative Williams talk about not being short-sighted, I love that. And I think we have a real opportunity right now in our state to increase state programs for small business expansion. I think we need to really increase our local markets for small farmers. In Iowa, small business is small agriculture. They're one and the same. And I think we have to really expand upon the opportunity for small family operations, whether it be you're a small t-shirt maker, you're a small financial firm, or you're a small farm. You should be able to have expansion in your business and be able to get state support in doing that. One topic that we haven't talked a lot about is maternal health. I know what we're looking at right now is building a broad coalition to look at midwifery certification in the state of Iowa. Right now, women's healthcare services are declining rapidly, and I think me trying to practice what I preach, I've recognized my privilege as a man. And with that being the case, it's my responsibility to use whatever power I have and platform I have to advocate for women's issues. And if you live in rural Iowa, services are declining so quickly that it's hard to really attract talent to our state. And so that's something that I'm passionate about and look forward to having a broader conversation around that. And then lastly, criminal justice reform always, but I think in that same form, when you talk about social justice overarchingly, whether it be climate or economic justice, looking at workers' rights. We have glaring issues that have existed for a long time. And it's not just in meatpacking. It's how we value workers and the work that they do. If you put on a suit and tie, you typically are treated much better than if you put on steel-toed boots. And I think in a place like Iowa, more of us are wearing boots than we are ties, and we have to address that. And I think that makes sure that workers have protection, not just during COVID, but outside of this thing. When we get to those brighter days where we're not so concerned about hugging our peers, it doesn't change the fact that workers in manufacturing, workers in meatpacking plants need to be paid a thriving wage. We need to ensure that we don't give immunity as a state of Iowa to negligent corporations like Tyson that intentionally, right, lie to workers, but also cause death upon people in our community. So for me, we're looking at corporate oversight and accountability, ensuring that workers are paid well, and that we retract immunity from bad actors in our communities.
Thank you very much. It is now time for questions. And we have several questions that have already been submitted, but I want to make sure everybody who is watching knows how to submit a question. If you're watching on Zoom, just go to the chat box, and I'm going to call on Sherry to explain how you do it if you are on Facebook. Sherry, if you would give a brief explanation of that.
Hi there. Well, if you're on Facebook, there's a lot of people who are already commenting below our live stream. And if you do that, our very alert helper, Augusta, is going to see your question. So if you've got a question, please, please, please ask it. Let me see, I can share my screen and I can come over here. And you see that there are people who are commenting. We'll have to go back through and sort. Oh my goodness, 16 comments and 7 shares. We are hot stuff here today. Thank you all for being here. So you would simply put your question right here.
Great, thank you, Sherry, for explaining that. We have several questions about the bottle bill, and I'm going to try to combine this if possible. One person said, how do we protect the bottle bill? And then a suggestion was made that perhaps we charge 10 cents a can and more money to recycling centers. And then another person commented that they strongly disagree with the proposal to repeal the bottle bill and hope that all the legislators on the Zoom meeting will commit to defeating the repeal bill. So I'm going to throw that one out there, and who would like to respond, okay? Would anyone like to respond? Any of the legislators?
Representative Williams has his hand up.
Write to your representative and send a personal note, not a form letter. So that was Iowa Press that it's supposed to be on tonight. Iowa Press is on tonight, on the middle of the night, Saturday morning, and then it's on Sunday. And I was just starting to reply on the chat, but I'll just say now that Speaker Grassley was clear about keeping the bottle bill, and he mentioned that there's broad support for it in the state. I think it was, and I'm sorry, senators, Senator Whitver, is he the, I can't remember your title over there.
Whitver is the majority leader, and Jake Chapman is the president. So the majority leader is the majority leader, and the president's like the speaker.
Senator Sweeney, thank you. Did you happen to hear the comments, or do you know Senator Whitver's comment? He didn't come across, I didn't think, as quite as strong as Speaker Grassley did, but I'd say watch the program and write to your representatives and senators.
I'd like to comment on the bottle bill. I've got a couple of bills that I'm working on right now to keep the bottle bill. We have to remember that a lot of our bottle handling places, our grocery stores don't want the bottles anymore because of the way people don't bring them in, washed out the way we're supposed to. The bill first came when Robert D. Ray was a governor back in 1974. And we had glass bottles. I mean, I remember getting my Pepsi out of a glass bottle, and the cans were just coming into view. We need to make sure that we have places to redeem our bottles. I think the people that are handling the bottles, they need to be upped with their handling fee in order for them to try to stay open, because a lot of them have closed. So speaking from the Natural Resources Committee, I want to keep being able to collect bottles, keeping our areas clean, but we need to make sure that it's equitable. If you add 10 cents, you've got to make sure you know where the money is all going, because some of the money that that is never redeemed, that's a little questionable of how it should be distributed. So we're working on that, and I want to, in the Natural Resources, I want to keep bottle collection and redemption.
This is Bob Kressick. I've actually kind of gotten engaged with this discussion, and I don't get a sense that it'll be repealed, but I do see that some changes will occur. I did have a chance to talk to the distributors who they're trying to work out an agreement with the grocers, and we'll have to see how all that goes. But, the distributors themselves, they actually take the product to the grocers or whoever's selling it, and then they collect the 5 cents and in some cases with the unreturned containers, they keep that revenue. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I'm not on any committee that would deal with that, but I'm very supportive of the bottle bill. I think as an active bicyclist, I've seen our roads and our ditches are in good shape. So I think that's something that's very important.
I support our bottle bill too. I think one of the things, because of my neighborhood, I have a small town grocery store, or a neighborhood grocery store. And so one of the struggles really is they are forced to take back the bottles at the same place I'm checking my food out. So and with COVID, and other things, though, prior to even COVID, though, that really highlights a little bit of issue. If I'm checking my meat and eggs out and there's someone bringing in dirty cans, that's really a problem. And, the owner at my grocery store, she has continued to take them back, even when the big grocers have denied taking them back. And so one of her concerns is, she feels like she's doing the right thing, but yet the big grocers aren't following suit and taking them back. And so I think we really need to look at it and make sure that everyone's being treated equally. And I agree with Jerry, I think said it, that we need more places to take them back. And with Senator Sweeney, then we need to make it worthwhile, right, for folks to take it back. But we don't want the bottle bill to go away, because I do believe that if we didn't have that, we would have we would be polluted with these cans and bottles all over the place. So I think that we just need to really get down to the brass tacks and say, how can we do this so that it makes sense for Iowa and makes sense for the grocery store folks and the distributors. So I think we've got some work to do ahead of, but I do think we need to take a few things into accountability.
Can I just piggyback on one piece of what Representative Brown-Powers said, and that, about the importance of maintaining the bottle bill in some form. From an environmental standpoint, it produces like the highest quality recyclable material, as opposed to commingled recycling, which is when you hire a private company in Cedar Falls or in Waterloo. The city provides that, where it's all thrown in together, all these different materials. There's a high chance of contamination with that commingled recycling. So often a lot of the stuff that gets thrown into a recycling bin still winds up in the landfill. And what we want is we want the stuff to actually get recycled. And so through programs like the bottle bill, we really increase the likelihood that the material will actually get recycled and turned into something else. So yeah, it's not functioning like it was when it was set up decades ago, because a nickel has changed in worth and value over that time, essentially, and we got different interests at play in this system. It does need to be modernized so that we increase the redemption rates again back to what it was like when the bottle bill was started. But I just want to be clear to people that that are frustrated with it and would like to see it go away, that from an environmental standpoint, I think we really need to hang on to the bottle bill and just make it function right again. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would
Otherwise,
agree with Senator Giddens, and I think economically, this is an opportunity for job creation. I think this is something that as the population in our country grows, this is going to be an issue that we have to figure out how to deal with. And I think for us, take this opportunity to really let a young industry thrive and provide jobs and opportunity for people in our communities. I look forward to supporting it. I'm looking forward to innovation and drafting legislation as well to make sure it's up to date and addresses the needs that we have right now.
thank you all. We'll go on to the next question, and I'm going to editorialize here. I love this question, okay? I think you will too. Is there any money for grants to encourage innovation for small businesses? I saw an article today about Bernie Sanders' mittens made by a teacher from recycled plastic bottles. Why can't we do something like that here? Is this something that maybe you and I might look at, Eric? That's the question. Any response to that?
I'll just say really quickly, I saw that comment in the chat, and as far as you and I's role, we have an AmeriCorps program at the center that I work at, Green Iowa AmeriCorps, and they do a lot of projects with schools and school districts. That it sounds like an interesting idea to pitch to them. For the second part of the question, first part about the grant programs, I'm not the best person to speak about that. I wonder if Senator Dotzler or Senator Sweeney or one of the others might have some knowledge of those things.
Yeah, Senator Dotzler and I are pretty much on the same page when it comes to involving our colleges and our community colleges. Senator Kibbe, I thought he did a great job up in Northwest Iowa about for the small businesses, and then including, again, our community colleges, as well as our 4 years for business development. At Iowa State, they have an entrepreneur class that even focuses on starting, individuals' own businesses. I know that, with Iowa Economic Development, and I apologize, I should have those stats, and also the USDA Rural Development also has grants and also business loans that they can start up with their own small businesses. So if that person would like to get a hold of their rural development people, and then also with the community colleges locally, I know there's some help out there.
The business plans really need to be put together. So I'd say get a hold of your local small business development center. We have them here in Blackhawk County. The other thing is that usually those really small projects and are good ideas. They have a tough time finding money. The Iowa Economic Development Authority does have dollars available, but they're usually centered around what they call high quality jobs. And so it's a little tougher to get. We have through the economic development budget funding to our research startups through our universities. And usually it really doesn't reach out to the individual lower level stuff. So it's pretty tough for somebody to get started in a small business and look for funding or grants. But the first place to go would be to contact your Iowa Small Business Development Centers. And we have one downtown Waterloo. There's one up at UNI, and that's where I'd go.
I'd like to expound a little bit what Senator Dossler said. You got to make sure that you got your cash flow sheets and everything ready to go. And you have your business plan. And I know that there's a number of people that will help people with business plans.
Yeah, I think, to second that, I think that's also important, but our state has to make sure that we got dollars in the coffer to actually execute these plans. We have a lot of grant processes that exist. We have a lot of teacher loan forgiveness programs that exist. But if we only have funded, only 20 people get the benefit. And that's not helpful for anyone. So we need to, it's helpful for those 20, but it's not helpful for the other 20,000. And I think for us, we have to really look at how we focus on innovation, including gig economy workers. There's those of us who would love to stay in Iowa, want to be here and raise our families, but it's not affordable because Iowa right now is not a really friendly gig economy state. And what that means is those who work maybe small contracts through other businesses, but don't work for a company long term. So I think for me, that's something we really have to focus on. And given what COVID has shown us, there's good regulation and there's bad regulation. I think we have a lot of regulation in the state on small businesses that's not good for expanding that. And I think we need to incentivize bringing new innovative businesses back to main streets and looking at ways that we could subsidize that rent so people can actually get started. And we're thinking of businesses within the first 2 to 3 years of operation with 25 or less employees to really address a specific niche in our state that's only going to grow and help with our economic prosperity.
Thank you. You've already sort of touched on the next question, but let me read it anyway, okay? Thanks to Roz and the other legislators who last year removed the law preventing mobile barbershops, such as Cut Kings by William Byrd here in Waterloo. Are there other regulations harming small business owners that can be removed this year to empower entrepreneurs and small businesses?
I know one thing in the House what we're looking at is the Food Freedom Act. This allows those who may have a business in their home, whether it be a small food business, because no brick and mortars have shut down. So a lot of folks like Keisha Davis here in Waterloo with Bougie Berries, right? They started in their home and they expanded to a certain threshold as to where you're forced to break out of your home, right? And get a brick and mortar. And unfortunately, for some folks making $30,000 a year does not mean that you can afford to pay $20,000 a year in rent. So we have to make sure that we're looking at how we balance what was on the books and is archaic now just because of where our economy has changed. So I think the Food Freedom Act, I'll get that bill number. I know it's we just got it drafted this past week. It's something that we're looking at in the House, and I will welcome folks to take a look at that, and I will try to get you that bill number.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond to that? All right. Next question. This is from a Facebook viewer. Is there anything about the transgender bill identifying trans students in our schools? And the comment is, this is totally discriminatory, dangerous, and unnecessary for our children.
Well, I can just comment. Here we are in a pandemic. We're dealing with people struggling to feed themselves, try to stay healthy. And this is a bill that is brought forward, but I do not understand it at all. It makes no sense. And I agree. It seems like the majority party that's what they're focused on. And they shouldn't, they should be focused on what they can do to keep us safe and healthy at the Capitol and around the state and get the economy going and doing other things, but it doesn't appear that that's a priority.
No, I can say to follow up with Bob is I am working with 2 different groups from the high schools here locally that find this bill very appalling. They question why and where that came from. I think that they are kind of forming a great committee, and they are going to be reaching out to the senators and state representatives on this topic, wondering why they've chosen to interfere in their personal lives outside of that and their beliefs. And so, you know, what I love that has occurred from this is that students are really taking some leadership involvement. They're stepping up and they're speaking out, and they're working with each other. And these are students of all diversity and all ages. And I think that Iowa state legislators that have moved such a bill are going to regret doing this, because the students are really outraged that this would be a concern, where they're concerned about mental health issues in the school, opioid use, consent and healthy relationships, going to, you know, making school safe from COVID. They have a list of things that really are prioritized, and this seems to be just a waste of time and coming out of, you know, mean-spirited. I'm not sure who drafted this particular legislation, but I think they're going to get some great negative feedback on this bill. And this is something that I certainly won't support. In fact, I'm helping the students get prepared and to fight back on this particular bill.
I'll add to it that here, you know, in the Cedar Valley, actually at Unity Point Clinic, we have an LGBTQ clinic that was set up by some leaders in our healthcare community around that topic. It was the first LGBTQ clinic specifically for LGBTQ healthcare set up in the state of Iowa. Modeled after similar clinics in other states. And so as far as this issue goes, I'd like to approach it, well, like I do most, you know, all issues, is from an evidence based standpoint, data-based standpoint. And let's talk about safety and security of these students and what do the numbers show us, you know. And so those medical experts, those healthcare experts that work with these folks are telling us that a law like this would make it less safe for LGBTQ students. And that's indisputable, you know. And so I think that really it's a, you know, sort of a black and white issue for me. Are you for more safety for our kids or not? And if the data shows that something like this will lead to an increase in suicides, honestly, then it's just, you know, reprehensible to me. So that's where I stand on it. Thank you for the question.
Any other comments? We'll go on to our next question then. This is specifically for Senator Sweeney, but if anyone else would like to comment, they're certainly welcome to do so after she has a chance to answer it. It is from Barbara Prather, who is the director of the Northeast Iowa Food Bank. She says, "Thank you to those who are working on sales tax exemption for food banks. All your work is appreciated. It is projected that 1 to 7 Iowans are food insecure and 1 to 5 kids. Senator Sweeney, I have not had a chance to discuss this with you, but is this something you would support?"
Well, what I'm thinking she's referring to is if somebody wants to donate a refrigerator or a freezer to our food bank so they can keep meat and eggs and things like that for, I know it's being discussed in the Senate, and I would support that being tax exempt on those. So I don't know what else she's referring to for tax exempt on for food banks. She could email me and give me her phone number, and I'd be happy to call her back.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment?
I guess just a basic description of that is that it's items that the food bank, you know, purchases for their operational needs there. Those items being sales tax exempt, that would that would save food banks across the state about $250,000 that they can leverage into about 1 million meals a year if they are able to save that $250,000 collectively. So that's the concept, Senator Sweeney. It's just sales tax exemption for the items that they need to purchase for their operations.
Well, food isn't taxed in the state of Iowa. So
no, this isn't the food that they purchase. It's items like durable items,
Yeah.
vehicles or things that they purchase for their operations to run
Okay.
their operations.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought, it was like for freezers and refrigerators too.
No.
What? Let's
No,
talk
it's
about
not.
this later.
No, I think it would include those, right? But
Yeah.
freezers
Right.
and refrigerators. Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Eric described it quite well. I mean, and this bill we've been trying to get it passed for, I don't know, Timmy has been involved with it too. I think for, 5 years, 6 years.
Mhm.
They've been asking that the money that they pay in tax would then be able to allow them to purchase food. So like if they buy a vehicle for a food bank, or they replace the one that they use, they would be exempt from paying a sales tax on that vehicle, and those dollars then could be used to purchase food and those things that they do with the food bank.
Okay, I didn't know about the vehicles and stuff. All I knew about was like the freezers. That's the way it was presented to me. So,
okay. Well, we'll have to get somebody to give it.
Just talk to Senator Carlin, Senator Sweeney. He's got the bill and he's supportive of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is kind of confusing when you talk about, you can feed so many more people. You don't realize that it's the sales tax you saved can purchase, as Bob said. So he's talking about moving it forward. And I sponsored this bill for, I don't know, we've been trying for 10 years. So
yeah, I was
anyway.
on it too last year. So hopefully we can get that across the finish line. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question. What is the status of the most recent abortion limiting bill?
That came out of HHS subcommittee. So it is the constitutional bill, again, that was ran last year and died. It came out of subcommittee this last week. So the next step would be if they decide to bring it to committee in the House. I don't know about the Senate side, but that's what the status is in the House side.
Anyone else? Okay. Do you think we can improve our poor water quality in Iowa this year? What chance does Bill House File 73 have? It would ban sales of electric vehicles since only car sales with flex fuels can be sold.
Well,
I'd say both, slim and none.
Slim and none, okay.
So on my new committee, I did talk to Representative Bacon, who is chair of Natural Resources. And my specific question to him was, would we be discussing water and soil issues? His response back to me is that he would really like to, but he doesn't know that we will be able to. I'm not sure what that exactly means, but I think it's the guidance he gets from leadership. But I do believe that we are going to go forward and draft such bills and continue the conversation. But I don't know what Natural Resources has on the Senate side. And President Bacon, I don't think himself personally is against that, but I just don't know if he will be willing to take anything forward, although we're going to try.
Being on the Natural Resources and also a farmer and also somebody that's involved with the South Fork watershed and with, in my opening, that my husband and I have been involved with this for close to 20 years now. The nutrient reduction strategy, I outlined that I would like to be able to, really address absentee landowners. We need to look at that. And then I had something brought forward to me. We've got a zebra mussel problem in our state, in our lakes. And so when we say that the waters are impaired, that you can't use our different lakes, etc., we need to remember that the zebra mussels, then with the zebra mussels being in our lakes, that then it is has I'm trying to think, status is that it's an impaired waterway. So we need to make sure that when we talk about impaired waterways, we need to make sure that we're addressing and talking about the same things. And so for me, I'm very involved with the water quality and water quality projects. And so we're going to keep water and soil health moving forward.
I think there's some awesome opportunities in our state. I do think that our state needs to be more friendly to entities like the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, some of our conservation groups that want to come in and really help to improve some of the edge of field practices and some of our buffer zones that we need to have be more plentiful in our state, but that also helps with wildlife. And as a hunter in our land, I'm excited that Representative Brown Powers is the ranking member of Natural Resources. I get to sit right next to her and talk about things like expanding pheasant season another week and stuff like that. But I also think that we have to look at innovative practices that are taking place. Dubuque County has a really good initiative that they're working on right now, kind of piloting with the Iowa Corn Growers Association that focuses on city and county partnerships. And I think that's what we have to look at. I think that's how we share the costs. We have to be effective and efficient in how we look at water quality, but no longer kick the can down the road. I think the time to act was 2 decades ago, even longer though than that. And I think this is a problem that we're going to still be fighting in 20 years if we don't really allocate not just resources and money, but incentivize the type of behavior that we want to see.
I would love to
Okay,
take you
and just oh, well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to outline it, and we don't have time tonight, but what, again, the nutrient reduction strategy that's been in place for quite some time. We have Iowa Corn that's been doing a lot of work on this for the last few years, and also Iowa soybean. And so I would love Representative Smith to come over and visit with you about this, show you what we've been doing, and see if we can build on that.
I just wanted to comment on the House File 73 that was asked. It's in the Transportation Committee in the House. And what the bill actually does is requires that all vehicles sold would have the flexible fuel. 25% of them would have flexible fuel. And I know that the fuel industry in Iowa is supportive of it, but then there's other groups that are opposed, and we'll see what happens with the bill.
If I could speak up a little bit on water quality, I have to take back a little bit that I don't expect a lot to happen in ag this session. We did have several meetings during the interim on soil health, which, of course, if you're working upstream, no pun intended, to build soil health, then that does have a downstream effect on water quality. And Representative Monson was the instigator behind that, and I didn't get a chance to catch up with him this last week or so to see what we might be doing on that. So that's some cause for hope, and I hope we get a chance to discuss it at least this year.
Okay, next question. I believe there will be a bill to bring back the death penalty. And this questioner says that this would be a terrible step backwards. What do you know about this? Would anyone like to comment?
That bill has been introduced in the Senate, and what that bill is outline is that if it's a juvenile that has been kidnapped, raped, and murdered, and then the death penalty could be sentenced. So, and right now in the state of Iowa, if somebody kidnaps a juvenile and murders them, there is no more penalty. And so if they would kidnap and rape an individual, it's the same, almost basically the same penalty. So they wanted to put more teeth into the to the bill and to the penalties. Again, it's a juvenile if the juvenile's been kidnapped, raped, and murdered. That is my understanding of the bill.
Yeah, and that bill passed out of subcommittee. The one lone Democrat voted against it. Just a couple things on that. First of all, that will not affect the number of cases because people don't think about what kind of penalty they're going to get when they're committing the crimes. It's actually more expensive to execute people than it is to keep them in prison for life. And I think the dying is the easy part. I've toured our prisons and talked to people in the prisons, and I've watched the statistics, and there's a high number of people who, commit suicide in there because they can't stand it. And I can't think of any more ultimate punishment is to spend every day the rest of your life in prison knowing you're not going to get out. So I'm opposed to it.
I'll add too that, I'm opposed to it as well for the same reasons that Senator Dotzler just talked about. And I just wanted to say that was the very first subcommittee that was scheduled in the Senate this year. And I just kind of thought the statement that was made by scheduling that as our very first subcommittee when we're dealing with a global pandemic and need to be working on relief associated with that, no matter what you think about the death penalty, I kind of feel like we got higher priorities right now that we should be working on. So.
Thank you. Next question. Would you share your thoughts on House Study Bill 66? The measure would bar the state's public universities from spending any non-state money unless the expenditure is approved by an act of the General Assembly. It would apply to the University of Iowa, including its healthcare system, Iowa State, and the University of Northern Iowa, and the region's special schools beginning in July 2022. It affects receiving large grants.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm trying to figure out the impetus of this bill. We had this subcommittee, and I can tell you that the dollars that come in gifts and grants and private donations, those are all disclosed to the Board of Regents who work for the state. So I'm not sure where they're asking for transparency. The reports are sent out now. If overarching bodies aren't reading those reports, that's nothing that the universities and regent schools can do. If your responsibility and your job duties are to read that report and give any criticism you think in the moment, that's fine. But I think this would really disparage donors from giving. This also really impacts the operations of our regent schools. If every time you have to utilize $10,000 from a donor, and that has to go through the legislature, that means you can only utilize monies from private donors or entities from January to April, right? And that seems, nobody can run a business that way. It seems really short-sighted for me. I don't support it. I sat in on the subcommittee, and our regents don't support that. If it's in the vein of more transparency, we have those triggers there, and there are better vehicles to increase transparency. But the first is to read your emails when they come across.
Yeah, I'll just second everything that Representative Smith just said. I work at a center, an outreach center at UNI that is about 90% of our budget is external funds that don't come from the state appropriation to the university. We have to raise that money with grants and contracts and other types of funding, and it's a patchwork of lots of different grants that are all on their own cycles. You don't just apply for them at one time in the school, the academic year, and operate on a neat, clean timeline. Those things are coming in at different times. They're ending at different times. They're of all sizes. I mean, we have very small grants all the way up to very large ones like our AmeriCorps program, which is a federal grant. I really honestly have no idea how this could be implemented. And I don't think anybody at any of the universities knows how it could be implemented either. It's a really, really big mess.
Thank you. We're going to end our questions with maybe a difficult question, okay? This viewer wants to know everyone's position on the education bills that include charter schools, vouchers, open enrollment changes, funding of public schools, and if you can just be very brief about your position on this, on these bills. Who would like to start?
I would say no on all of them. I think vouchers will cripple our public education system intentionally. I think allocating $50 million for private schools and only less than 5% of the students can benefit, but only allocating 20 million to 48,000 students is a fiscal nightmare. I don't believe it's a great investment in our state. And I think its ill intentions are noticeable even on paper.
I'm 100% against it.
Yeah,
Next.
this is Bob. I am too. One of the things too that this voucher proposal, I've talked to some superintendents. I think Eric and Dave and I both have had some conversations on what they're proposing. And the one thing that I get in all of those proposals going after education is they want to take local control away from them. And, I think it's the wrong direction. My wife worked in the schools for several years and, they do a great job. They are awesome. So I will be opposed to that, and hopefully we can get people to contact their legislator and make sure they know where they stand on these issues.
Anyone else?
Normally I don't say anything when I agree with the other speakers, but the person asking the question asked for us all to comment, I guess. And that the way I got here is because nobody else signed up to run against the voucher king. So that should tell you what I think of this stuff. And my earlier comments on education is an investment in our future, in the investment in each individual to begin with, and then it all rolls up to the state. Our attitude and our treatment of education is one of the major things that makes us such a slow growing state. So as Representative Smith said, and I don't know how many times I need to say it, but it's no, 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 no. Thank you.
So I think the key word is no right now, or no, 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 no. I think ill intent is probably also the key word here. Here's the thing, and we have talked about this ever since I've been in the legislature. This is happening then on the backs of rural schools. So as we drive around, we are already seeing our rural schools disappear and those communities dissolve, right? And so that in itself is a problem for me. I have many Catholic schools in my district, all of which I go to, support, and enjoy. And we have done some legislation to help, get them some more monies. But the voucher bill is not the way to do it. And to do that on the public schools and to do that on the backs of rural schools and with the trickling effect of the whole community of that rural community, I think is problematic. Our superintendent has reached out to Roz and I as well and has outlined, her thoughts in a very detailed manner. But this is something that I think we need to take a step back and make sure that we are supporting the students, all the students, and their families and the communities. And we'll stick with, this is maybe an ill intent at this point. So, but thank you for your time.
Gene, can I just add quickly, Gene, that I think if we have to think a little bit deeper, during COVID, we saw what our school districts went through and how they provided services, not just for students, but for families, right? We had teachers dropping off laptops, feeding families, giving bag lunches to parents, even though they maybe shouldn't have, they were making sure people were fed. And this has exposed how our schools are pillars of our community. They're much more than just teaching students now, right? They make sure basic needs are met. They make sure people are safe. And we have to not just fund them as such, but respect them as such. And every time we've moved the goalposts, they said, okay, we'll do it anyway. We'll work harder. We'll do more. And I think this is a slap in the face because a lot of these dollars goes towards paying our teachers, goes towards our classroom provisions for students. And it seems to really disrespect the profession and not move forward at a time where they need our support. And we need to be rewarding them for the effort they've put in during this time.
And currently, with the lack of funding to our child mental health, the schools are our child mental health. So we need to remember that too. So,
Would you like to come?
I'm in conversation with all my superintendents, and I still live in my same school district. In fact, I live in the same house I grew up in 63 years ago. So the rural districts are very important to me. You know, and our rural schools are disappearing, but it's because nobody lives out here anymore. My nearest neighbor is a half a mile away. And you know, when we used to be able to go around 2 sections and have the bus almost full, now the bus has to travel for 45 minutes to even get it a quarter full, just because there's nobody living out here. And so we need to make sure that we address that, but we have open enrollment in our rural schools already. And so we also have to keep that in mind. But I am very, I just really appreciate my superintendents that are willing to discuss this with me.
We are now going to go to closing comments.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I didn't get in there earlier.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I guess I just want to say, you know, that kind of philosophically and fundamentally, I think that this is the wrong way to approach support for education. I think we, you know, the point of public dollars that we take in tax collections should be meant to go to support equitable access to education for everybody. You know, that's just kind of the fundamental concept here. And so if we're taking money from the schools that have been deemed to be the lowest performing schools and redistributing that to other entities that are not held accountable for the education that they provide in you know, the set of standards that we have for our public schools, then how are those schools ever supposed to improve? Those on the lowest end of the performing list, it's just the opposite of what we need to be doing. If we have schools that aren't doing well, they need extra support. They need more funding. That's what equity is all about. You know, we need to meet people where they are, and we need to help them get to a place of equality. And this is the opposite of that. So I guess that's my position: is public dollars for the public good, and that in the realm of education means equitable access to education for everybody, and not you know, starting to redistribute those resources.
Thank you. Senator Dossler, do you have a comment?
I think
Do you have a comment, Bill?
Oh, yeah, I just expressed my against it, but I just want to say this, that we are heading into a technological advancement and revolution that is unmatched in the history of the world. There has been so much that is going on, and if we diversify the money from public schools and start giving it to small private schools, we are going to hurt our future, because yet we will not be able, those small schools will not be able to keep up with the technology, with the teachers, with the people that we're struggling in public schools to find, and to pay the kind of wages that need to be paid to have talent to educate these new technologies to our students. So our nation was founded on public education. It needs to remain strong. And if you're not funding it at the level more than even keeping up with inflation, we shouldn't be talking about taking resources away from public education and putting it somewhere else that's going to, in the long run, help young people get the kind of education they need.
Thank you. We are now going to go to closing comments, and we're running just a little bit behind schedule. So if we could maybe keep our comments to about a minute or so, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. Why don't we start with Representative Smith?
Awesome. Well, thank you. I love the robust conversation tonight. I truly believe that right now is our greatest opportunity for change, and I believe that our systems are showing that. And it's imperative upon us to really lean into the change that's naturally taking place. If we want to create a more globally competitive society right here within our communities, we have to start moving now. I don't believe we can wait. I mean, I believe that in any legislation that's geared towards reducing public dollars for the public good, that's a mistake. I think any legislation that's not geared towards real water quality, that's a mistake. Any legislation that's not really geared towards making sure that people in all corners of our state have access to not just broadband, but internet in a way that's meaningful and effective. If we're not doing that, it's a mistake. And so I encourage everybody to lean in to what's happening right now, to understand that there's beauty in this struggle, right? And hard work is not always pretty, but there is a great outcome that we can have. And so I look forward to continue to do the work to make sure that we have equity for all people, and always going to support justice over jails. And I look forward to creating allies and collaborating with you all as we look to do the good work.
Thank you. Representative Brown Powers.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for tonight. You know, tonight was really a diverse conversation about many, many topics going on down at the state house. And, you know, one of the things with this COVID, I do feel like folks are, you know, not feeling like they can engage. And I want to make sure that folks know, please do engage with us. Please continue to call us and email us, Zoom with us. Last week, that was several of the students, you know, they're real good about that. They'll just send you a Zoom invite. But though you don't feel comfortable being there, and I totally understand that and totally respect that, and many of you really shouldn't be there at this juncture, but do stay engaged with us, stay in contact with us. As you saw or heard tonight, we have a lot of things going on down there coming out of the House and the Senate. Some things that will be wonderful for the state of Iowa, some things that could be very detrimental. So stay engaged, and we, you know, the team here is a hardworking team. We work as a team, and we utilize each other's strengths. So if there's something that one of us doesn't know, the other one surely will. So just make sure that you stay in contact with us, and we are there to work for you. The chairs that we sit in are your voices. So, and we take that very seriously. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you soon.
Thank you. Representative Williams.
I echo what Representative Smith and Rep. Brown Powers said. Thank you so much for being part of this process. This is what makes it work, is when we have your input. When you give us input, maybe that makes us uncomfortable, that doesn't matter. We all want to hear what you have to say, because we're here to serve you. So I'll continue working hard on the issues that come up in the committees I serve on. I'll do that. And also I look forward to continuing to receive input from you and helping out as best I can with not only, I call it the Blackhawk County Caucus, but also research staff in Des Moines, and even lobby can be quite helpful to us also. So thank you so much for being part of the process, and I hope to see you again in a month.
Thank you. Representative Cressy.
Thank you. And thank you for putting all this together tonight, the League of Women Voters and the other groups that are involved with you guys. So that's very I want to thank Senator Sweeney. I don't know if she's still on. I think she maybe got off, but she could be, for attending the event and hearing her perspective, I think is significant. I would just say that this legislative session, and I've been part of several, is probably the most unusual and unique that I've ever really experienced. There's people at the Capitol who are fearful of staying healthy, and then there's others that just kind of ignore that conversation. So hopefully we can get through this session and none of us get sick, or we bring it home to our loved ones, which is a concern for me, and I know it's for others. So let's keep in touch, and I appreciate the event tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Dotzler? Senator Dotzler, are you still there?
I'm sorry. I thought I just unmuted myself. I just
Okay.
want to say quickly, there's nothing more important than the members of the public tracking and keeping an eye on this legislation and expressing their concerns or their support. I would recommend, because this, as Bob said, this is a very unique situation, to go to the Iowa Legislature website and click on legislation, and then there's another button you can follow. It says find legislation, and you can go to the committees and eventually search out where the subcommittees are. Now, they're having subcommittees in an unsafe way at the Capitol. You have a right to go and attend, but I do know that the majority party and the ones that I've done remotely aren't wearing masks. So, and I don't believe it's a safe place to be. But in the Senate, you do have an opportunity to speak. So if you get on there's a Zoom page for it. You can get on there and you could speak on the bills in committee. Now, I do know the House has a different deal. You have to be there in person to speak, and that's wrong. They don't give them an opportunity to speak on a Zoom call. Just listen. So it's important. So we'll be putting how you do this in some of our newsletters and try to keep you posted on these very important issues. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you. And Senator Giddens?
All right. Thank you all for attending tonight. It's great to be with you. Yeah, it's all been said. You know, we're here to serve our community, and we'll do all we can to do that. Just to add one thing to Senator Dotzler's comment in terms of accessing those subcommittee meetings and attending via Zoom. Senate Democrats are setting up a website, or it's actually on the Senate Democrats website, but setting up a list of subcommittees with a link to the Zoom meeting so that you can see what the bill's about, and then click on that Zoom link to attend if you'd like to attend and make comments. And then we also have a way for you to submit written comments on each of those subcommittees as well. So there'll be a link there for that too. So that's going to kind of be set up as a one-stop shop for going to any subcommittee you'd like to go to and attend. The other side of things is, you know, not just about the legislation we're working on, but about constituents' services and being a resource and an aid to our constituents that are going through a myriad of different things in the community during this pandemic. So, you know, since this all set in, we have spent a lot of time helping folks navigate state government in various ways to try to get help. And we continue to do that. We will continue as long as we need to. So send us an email, give us a call. We're happy to do whatever we can to try to help you get to the help that you need. So I just appreciate the organizers of these these forums. It's a great way for us to get engaged with the community and stay engaged. And hope everybody has a great weekend. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next forum is February 12th, and the topic will be the economy. I want to thank all the legislators who were here today, including Senator Sweeney, who has left already. But thank you for taking the time to join us and to answer our questions. I want to thank everyone who watched it tonight on Zoom and participated with wonderful questions. So thanks to everyone. Good night.